How avoidance can find its way back to love. You see, in life, we all face moments where avoidance becomes our shield. Pain, fear, rejection. We run from it. We dodge hard conversations. We numb ourselves to what we don't want to feel. But here's the truth. What we avoid owns us. It controls our destiny. We think we're protecting ourselves, but in reality, we're building walls that keep us from the very thing we crave the most: love, connection, fulfillment. Avoidance starts as a defense mechanism, but if we let it, it becomes our prison. The more we run, the further we get from our truth. If we don't face that truth, we can never truly experience love, not just in relationships, but in life. Avoidance is something we all engage in at some point in our lives. We tell ourselves that we're doing it for the right reasons, to protect ourselves, to avoid conflict, to keep the peace. But what we don't realize is that avoidance doesn't protect us. It imprisons us. The very act of running from discomfort, from pain, from the unknown, builds a wall between us and the life we truly want. The more we avoid, the more we lose touch with ourselves, our desires, and the love we seek. It's a slow process, so subtle that we often don't even realize it's happening until we find ourselves stuck, disconnected, and unfulfilled. Avoidance can take many forms. Some people avoid difficult conversations, fearing confrontation and the possibility of emotional pain. Others avoid making decisions, terrified of failure or the weight of responsibility. Some avoid intimacy, afraid of being seen, of being vulnerable, of the possibility that love might bring both joy and heartache. The problem is that avoidance doesn't make the fear go away. It amplifies it. The more we avoid, the more power we give to the thing we're running from. It begins to dictate our actions, our emotions, and ultimately our destiny. Think about it. Have you ever put off an important conversation with someone you care about? Maybe there was something you needed to say, something that could have cleared the air or deepened the connection, but instead you hesitated. You convinced yourself that it was better to let it be, that addressing it would only create conflict or discomfort. But what happened? The unspoken words lingered. The tension grew, the connection weakened. Avoidance doesn't solve problems, it lets them fester. It erodes relationships from the inside out, leaving us feeling distant, misunderstood, and alone. This pattern of avoidance doesn't just affect our relationships with others, it affects our relationship with ourselves. When we avoid pain, we avoid growth. When we avoid challenges, we avoid opportunities. We stay in our comfort zones, falsely believing that we are safe, when in reality we are stagnant. Growth requires us to face discomfort, to step into the unknown, to embrace the full spectrum of human emotions. Love, success, fulfillment, none of these exist in a place of avoidance. They exist on the other side of it. Avoidance tricks us into believing that we are in control, but in truth, it is the one controlling us. The more we run, the stronger our fears become. What we resist persists. The things we refuse to face take root in our subconscious and manifest in other areas of our lives. We start to sabotage ourselves without even realizing it. We push people away before they can leave us. We procrastinate on opportunities before we can fail. We tell ourselves we don't care before we can be rejected. In trying to avoid pain, we create it in different ways. The key to breaking free from this cycle is awareness. We have to be honest with ourselves about what we're avoiding and why. Are we avoiding difficult conversations because we fear rejection? Are we avoiding love because we fear loss? Are we avoiding change because we fear uncertainty? The moment we bring these fears into the light, they begin to lose their power. Avoidance thrives in darkness, in denial, in the space where we refuse to look. When we confront it head on, we take back control. Taking action doesn't mean we have to dive headfirst into every fear at once, but it does mean taking small, intentional steps toward the things we've been running from. It means choosing courage over comfort. It means recognizing that avoidance doesn't protect us, it keeps us from living fully. Love, connection, growth, fulfillment. These aren't things we find while hiding, they are things we step into, things we earn through presence, honesty, and courage. The path to everything we truly want isn't found in avoiding discomfort. It's found in facing it and stepping through fear and into the life we were meant to live. Awareness is the foundation of all change, but you cannot change something you don't recognize. The problem with avoidance is that it operates in the background, silently shaping our choices, relationships, and experiences without us even realizing it. We think we're making decisions based on logic, but in reality, many of our choices are driven by unexamined fears. We avoid conflict because we fear rejection. We avoid risks because we fear failure. We avoid vulnerability because we fear being hurt. These patterns don't just appear out of nowhere. They are conditioned responses built over time. The first step to breaking free is becoming aware of where avoidance is running the show in your life. Most people go through life on autopilot, repeating the same behaviors without questioning them. They stay in jobs they hate, relationships that don't fulfill them, and routines that keep them stuck. Why? Because facing the discomfort of change feels more overwhelming than staying in the familiarity of avoidance. But when you start to ask yourself the hard questions, when you get radically honest about why you keep avoiding certain areas of your life, you begin to reclaim your power. Self-awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. You can't fix what you refuse to see, but the moment you acknowledge it, you create the possibility for transformation. Becoming aware of avoidance starts with observation. Pay attention to where resistance shows up in your life. What situations make you uncomfortable? What conversations do you keep putting off? What emotions do you try to suppress? The things we avoid hold valuable clues about what we need to heal and confront. Avoidance often hides in the small, everyday moments. Choosing to scroll through your phone instead of engaging in a difficult discussion. Saying, "I'm fine," when you're not making excuses instead of taking action. These tiny decisions repeated over time create a life built on avoidance rather than authenticity. Once you become aware of your avoidance patterns, the next step is to understand the deeper reasons behind them. Ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Many people think they fear failure, but what they actually fear is what failure represents: disappointment, judgment, or the belief that they are not enough. Others avoid intimacy, thinking they fear getting hurt, but the real fear is often a deeper wound of unworthiness, a belief that if someone truly sees them, they won't be loved. Avoidance is rarely about the surface level fear. It's about the deeper emotional pain we associate with it. When you get clear on what you're really avoiding, you can start to change your relationship with it. Awareness isn't just about identifying what you're avoiding. It's about taking responsibility for how it's shaping your life. Many people fall into the trap of blaming external circumstances for their avoidance. They say things like, "I can't have that conversation because they won't understand," or "I can't take that risk because the timing isn't right." But these are just stories we tell ourselves to justify staying in avoidance. The truth is, no one and nothing is stopping you except the fear you haven't confronted. The moment you realize that, you shift from being a victim of circumstance to the creator of your reality. Self-awareness also allows you to recognize the cost of avoidance. Every time you avoid something, you pay a price. You might avoid a difficult conversation to keep the peace, but the price is resentment and disconnection. You might avoid taking a risk in your career to feel safe, but the price is stagnation and unfulfilled potential. You might avoid vulnerability in a relationship to protect yourself, but the price is missing out on deep, meaningful love. Awareness forces you to see that while avoidance feels like the easy option in the short term, it always leads to greater suffering in the long run. Breaking free from avoidance doesn't mean you have to change everything overnight. It starts with small moments of awareness. It starts with pausing before you default to avoidance and asking yourself, what am I really afraid of? It starts with choosing discomfort over disconnection, honesty over hiding, courage over fear. The more you practice awareness, the more you reclaim your power. You begin to see that fear isn't a stop sign. It's a signal pointing to where your next level of growth is. And when you face it instead of avoiding it, you don't just change your actions, you change your entire life. Pain is one of the most misunderstood experiences in life. Most people associate pain with suffering, failure, or loss, and because of that, they do everything in their power to avoid it. They run from difficult conversations, hide from challenges, and stay in situations that no longer serve them just to escape the discomfort of change. But what if pain wasn't the enemy? What if the very thing you're avoiding is actually the key to your growth, strength, and transformation? The way we perceive pain shapes the way we experience it. If you believe pain is something negative, something to be feared, you will resist it at all costs. But when you reframe pain as a necessary part of growth, it takes on a different meaning. Think about any major breakthrough you've had in life. Maybe it was a moment when you finally stood up for yourself, walked away from a toxic situation, or pushed past your fears to chase a dream. In every case, there was some level of pain involved, whether it was the discomfort of uncertainty, the sting of rejection, or the struggle of hard work. But looking back, wasn't that pain worth it? Didn't it make you stronger, wiser, and more capable? Pain is not the problem. The real problem is the meaning we attach to it. Most people see pain as a punishment, a sign that something is wrong. But pain is just feedback. It's a signal from life telling you that something needs to change, grow, or be healed. Imagine going to the gym for the first time after months of inactivity. The next day, your muscles are sore. Does that mean you should stop working out? No. That soreness is proof that your body is adapting, getting stronger. The same is true for emotional pain. When something hurts, it's a sign that there's an area in your life that needs attention. Maybe it's a relationship that requires deeper communication, a limiting belief that needs to be challenged, or a dream that's been ignored for too long. Reframing pain doesn't mean ignoring it or pretending it doesn't hurt. It means seeing it as part of the process. It means recognizing that pain is temporary, but the growth it brings is permanent. The reason people get stuck in avoidance is that they focus too much on the immediate discomfort and forget about the long-term reward. They say, this is too hard, this is too painful, but they don't ask, what will this pain create? What will it lead me to? If you only focus on the struggle, you will stay in avoidance. But if you focus on what the struggle is shaping you into, you will embrace it. Think about the most inspiring people in the world, athletes, leaders, artists, entrepreneurs. What do they all have in common? They don't run from pain, they use it. They turn rejection into motivation, failure into wisdom, hardship into strength. They understand that pain is a teacher. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? They ask, what is this teaching me? That shift in perspective changes everything. It takes you from feeling powerless to feeling in control. It allows you to see that every challenge, every setback, every moment of discomfort is preparing you for something greater. One of the most powerful things you can do is learn to sit with pain instead of avoiding it. Instead of numbing yourself with distractions, social media, food, alcohol, procrastination, face it. Ask yourself, what is this pain trying to tell me? Maybe it's telling you that you need to let go of something that's no longer serving you. Maybe it's telling you that you've been playing small and it's time to step up. Maybe it's telling you that you've been carrying wounds from the past that need healing. Whatever the message, listen to it. Because the sooner you acknowledge the lesson, the sooner you can move through the pain instead of staying stuck in it. Every great transformation starts with discomfort. Growth is uncomfortable. Healing is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. But so is staying the same. The difference is that the pain of growth leads to a better future, while the pain of avoidance leads to regret. You have a choice. You can either let pain control you, or you can take control of it. You can either see it as suffering, or you can see it as the path to everything you desire. The moment you change the meaning of pain, you change your entire experience of life. Love is not just a feeling, it's an action. It's something that must be cultivated, nurtured, and expressed through consistent effort. Too many people believe that love, whether in relationships, self-worth, or life itself, should be effortless. That if it's real, it will just flow without struggle. But the truth is, the deepest, most fulfilling forms of love require commitment, courage, and a willingness to act, even when it's uncomfortable. Avoidance kills love because it keeps us from showing up fully. It convinces us that it's safer to hold back, to wait for the right moment, to protect ourselves from rejection or disappointment. But love doesn't thrive in hesitation. It thrives in movement, in risk, in action. One of the biggest ways people sabotage love is by waiting for the perfect conditions before taking action. They say, I'll be vulnerable when I know I won't get hurt, or I'll open up when they prove they care. But love doesn't work that way. It's not about waiting for guarantees. It's about showing up regardless. Love requires the courage to go first, to express how you feel without knowing how the other person will respond, to put in effort even when it's not reciprocated immediately, to trust even when you've been hurt before. The problem with avoidance is that it tricks you into thinking that playing it safe will protect you. In reality, it just creates distance. The more you avoid, the more disconnected you become, not just from others, but from your own ability to give and receive love freely. In relationships, avoidance manifests as emotional walls. Maybe you don't bring up concerns because you don't want to start an argument. Maybe you hold back affection because you're afraid of being rejected. Maybe you dismiss your needs because you don't want to seem needy or demanding. But love isn't about suppressing your truth. It's about sharing it. Every time you avoid expressing what's in your heart, you put another layer of distance between you and your partner. Over time, that distance becomes the very thing that erodes the connection. Relationships don't fall apart overnight. They weaken through small, repeated moments of avoidance, unspoken words, withheld affection, unresolved issues. The only way to keep love alive is to choose action over avoidance again and again. Love also demands action in the relationship you have with yourself. Self-love isn't just about feeling good about who you are. It's about the actions you take to honor yourself. That means setting boundaries instead of letting people walk over you. It means making choices that align with your values instead of settling for what's easy. It means taking care of your physical, emotional, and mental well-being instead of ignoring your needs. Many people avoid self-care because they feel guilty, or they avoid facing their insecurities because it's uncomfortable. But avoiding yourself is the fastest way to lose connection with who you are. Self-love requires action, choosing yourself daily, even when it's hard. Avoidance also shows up when people fear rejection or failure. They hold back love because they don't want to risk getting hurt. But the irony is, avoiding love doesn't prevent pain, it guarantees it. If you never put yourself out there, you will never experience true connection. If you never risk vulnerability, you will never know the depth of love that's possible. Avoidance creates a life of loneliness, not safety. The most successful relationships, the happiest people, and the most fulfilled individuals all have one thing in common. They take action in love. They express appreciation without hesitation. They have hard conversations instead of avoiding them. They make the first move instead of waiting for someone else to do it. Love demands presence. It asks you to show up fully, to engage with your whole heart, to participate instead of observing from a distance. It's not something you wait for. It's something you create. If you want more love in your life, you have to give more love. If you want deeper relationships, you have to be willing to connect on a deeper level. If you want more passion, you have to take passionate action. The mistake most people make is thinking that love is something that just happens to them, when in reality, love is something they build through their actions every single day. Vulnerability is often seen as weakness, but in reality, it is the foundation of connection, intimacy, and deep, meaningful relationships. Avoidance and vulnerability cannot coexist. When you avoid vulnerability, you build walls instead of bridges, and those walls don't just keep pain out, they keep love, joy, and fulfillment out as well. People avoid being vulnerable because they fear rejection, judgment, or getting hurt. But the irony is that avoiding vulnerability creates the very loneliness and disconnection they are trying to escape. Vulnerability is the price of real love, real relationships, and real personal growth. Many people spend their lives wearing emotional armor. They act tough, indifferent, or detached because they believe that showing their true emotions will make them appear weak. They avoid expressing how they feel, believing that if they don't put themselves out there, they can't get hurt. But this strategy doesn't protect them, it isolates them. True connection only happens when people are willing to be seen for who they really are. You cannot truly love or be loved if you are hiding behind a mask. Love requires honesty, and honesty requires vulnerability. Think about the moments in your life when you felt the deepest connection with someone. Was it when you were pretending to have it all together? Or was it when you opened up, shared your fears, your dreams, your struggles, and allowed yourself to be truly seen? Every great relationship, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, is built on a foundation of vulnerability. It's the moment when you say, "This is who I really am," and the other person says, "I see you and I accept you." That kind of connection cannot exist in an environment of avoidance. Avoidance creates distance while vulnerability creates closeness. Avoidance keeps conversations on the surface while vulnerability takes them deeper. Avoidance keeps love guarded while vulnerability allows love to flow freely. People often avoid difficult conversations because they fear conflict, but avoiding those conversations only leads to greater misunderstandings, resentment, and emotional detachment. Vulnerability means having the courage to express your true thoughts and feelings even when it's uncomfortable. It means saying, "This is what I need, this is how I feel," or "This hurt me," rather than pretending everything is fine. Avoidance doesn't just affect relationships with others, it affects the relationship you have with yourself. When you avoid your own emotions, you lose touch with your true self. You bury your feelings, suppress your desires, and pretend you don't care when deep down you do. Over time, this leads to numbness. You stop feeling deeply, and life starts to feel empty. Vulnerability, on the other hand, brings you back to life. It allows you to experience emotions fully, to express yourself authentically, and to live with an open heart rather than a closed one. Some people fear that if they are vulnerable, they will be taken advantage of or hurt. But the truth is, vulnerability does not mean exposing yourself to people who will misuse it. It means choosing wisely who you open up to while understanding that no relationship can thrive without honesty. Being vulnerable does not mean sharing everything with everyone. It means being real with the people who matter. It means dropping the act and showing up as yourself. It means embracing the fact that love, by its nature, comes with risk. You cannot experience deep love without risking heartbreak, just as you cannot achieve success without risking failure. Every great love story, every lasting friendship, every meaningful connection exists because at some point someone took the risk of being vulnerable. Someone said, "I love you" first. Someone admitted their fears. Someone expressed their dreams. Someone opened their heart when they could have stayed guarded. The people who experience the deepest relationships and the greatest personal growth are not the ones who avoid vulnerability, but the ones who embrace it. They understand that the reward of connection is worth the risk of being seen. When you stop avoiding vulnerability and start embracing it, everything in your life changes. Your relationships become more authentic. Your confidence grows because you are no longer hiding behind a facade. You become more at peace because you are living in alignment with your true self. Avoidance keeps you stuck, but vulnerability sets you free. It allows you to step fully into love, connection, and the life you are meant to live. Love is not something that just happens. It's something we create, cultivate, and sustain through conscious effort. Many people believe that if love is real, it should flow effortlessly without challenges or struggle. But the reality is, love, whether in a romantic relationship, a friendship, or even self-love, requires continuous growth and nurturing. The biggest mistake people make is thinking that once love is lost, it's gone forever. But love doesn't disappear. It fades when we stop feeding it, when we stop prioritizing it, when we allow avoidance to take the place of action. If love has weakened, it can be strengthened again. If it has been lost, it can be found. But it takes effort, intention, and a willingness to break through the barriers that have been created over time. Avoidance is one of the most common reasons love fades. It starts subtly, avoiding tough conversations, avoiding expressing emotions, avoiding showing up fully. Over time, these small avoidances accumulate, creating distance, resentment, and disconnection. The good news is that just as avoidance can pull love apart, action can bring it back together. It starts with a decision to show up differently, to face what has been avoided, and to actively build love rather than passively letting it slip away. Rekindling love requires revisiting what made the connection strong in the first place. In relationships, this means remembering what drew you to the other person, what made you fall in love, and what moments created the deepest connection. Love is not lost because people change. It is lost because people stop paying attention. They stop prioritizing affection, communication, and vulnerability. If love has become distant, the first step to bringing it back is to start showing up again. Initiate meaningful conversations. Express appreciation. Bring back small gestures of love. Create new experiences together. Love is built in the small moments. Choosing to listen rather than ignore. Choosing to reach out rather than withdraw. Choosing to be present rather than distracted. Self-love follows the same pattern. When people feel disconnected from themselves, it's usually because they've stopped prioritizing their well-being. They've avoided their needs, ignored their passions, or allowed negative self-talk to take over. But self-love, just like love in relationships, can always be restored. It starts with action. Choosing to take care of yourself, to honor your boundaries, to speak to yourself with kindness, to do the things that bring you joy. When you stop avoiding yourself and start actively nurturing yourself, you rebuild the love you have for who you are. Love is also found when we remove the barriers that have blocked it. Fear, resentment, past wounds, these are all things that can keep love at a distance. If love has felt lost, it's important to ask, what has been in the way? Is there unresolved hurt that needs to be addressed? Are there fears that have been holding you back? Love does not thrive in a space of emotional clutter. Clearing out what no longer serves you, whether it's old wounds, limiting beliefs, or unspoken resentment, makes room for love to return. One of the most powerful ways to reignite love is to make it a daily practice. Love is not just something we feel, it is something we do. If you want to strengthen love in your relationships, practice love daily through words, actions, and presence. If you want to strengthen love for yourself, practice self-love daily through the way you treat yourself, the choices you make, and the way you speak to yourself. Love is not passive, it is active, and the more you put into it, the more it grows. Love is never truly lost. It is always waiting to be reclaimed. It does not disappear. It only becomes buried under avoidance, distraction, and neglect. But the moment you decide to show up for it again, to nurture it, to invest in it, to break through the barriers that have kept it hidden, you will find that love has always been there, ready to grow again. Love is not something that is found and then forgotten. It is something we must continuously choose, nurture, and fight for, even in the face of fear, pain, and avoidance. Every moment of hesitation, every time we hold back, every instance where we let fear dictate our actions, we create distance between ourselves and the love we desire. But the beauty of love is that it is never truly lost. It is always within reach, waiting for us to break through our fears, embrace vulnerability, and take action. Whether it's in relationships, self-love, or reconnecting with life itself, the path back to love is always open to those who are willing to walk it. So I challenge you today, stop waiting, stop avoiding, and start choosing love in every way possible. Thank you for your time, your openness, and your willingness to step forward on this journey of rediscovering the love that has always been within you